Without giving rise to the bodhicitta, there is no practice. Without giving rise to compassion that breaks down the perceived barriers in phenomena and between sentient beings, there's nothing. You might as well read a novel and think it's Dharma. Even if one were to read a book well written on Dzogchen or Emptiness, without the grace and blessing and kindness of the support of the three precious jewels condensed in one's teacher, there will be no result. Dharma is not a story. It's not an epic. It's not a TV show. It's not something that you can taste and walk away from, because then you'll have nothing, just a taste. And you'll forget it soon, because we do. Dharma is a path. And a path means that we walk it every day with our five senses, with our thoughts, in our aspirations, in our intentions, and patiently and lovingly. Just as my aunties and my family, who patiently and lovingly saw me through those months. Even when I fell down, they picked me back up again. Even when I made a mess all over the place, they cleaned it up. If only you could be that patient with yourselves. If only you could lift up that Buddha seed within you and honor it. If only you could clean up your messes, whatever they are, and move on. Then we would be practicing Dharma. And there's no sense being haughty about it. You know, you're wearing robes, you know a lot. You know some. You know more than lots of people. You know about cause and effect. You've found the path. You've contacted your own root guru. There's so much good here. And sometimes we become haughty about it or careless, and we think, yeah, I've got the path, I've got the guru, let me have, let's listen up a little bit here. And we think, I really don't want to be held back. I want to be free. But you have what you need to honor yourself. You have what you need to take the responsibility for awakening to Buddha in the palm of your hand, in the lotus throne of your heart, to awakening in recognition. And to play games with it or to be haughty about it is a waste of your time, your precious, holy time. None of us knows how long our life will be. Do we have time to say, oh, I hate myself and I have this habit, therefore I can't go forward in this way? We don't have time for that junk, baby stuff, isn't it? Or, do I, how deep do I want to go? So I'll think about it. I'll do a little sampling. I'll try this, I'll try that, I'll try that. That kind of game results in very little. Because again, Dharma is a method, it is a path. And you walk it one foot in front of the other. It's not to be dabbled in. It's not to be tasted. The way we go to different stores to see if there are even more delicious foods in other stores. It's not like that with the Dharma. One accomplishes the Dharma from start to finish, slowly, slowly, with patience, caring, and love. The kind of love that you ordinary sentient beings showed me. Can you do that for yourself? If you recognize enough in your teacher that you would do anything to care for your teacher, and I know I would for my teacher, can you then open your eyes and see that this is not separate for caring purely, cleanly, and profoundly for your own Buddha nature? It's not separate. It's the same thing. Once I gave a teaching that to understand what we really are is a very complicated and profound thing. When we think about our 5 senses, we can think about the 5 primordial Buddhas, each of them with their fantastic qualities of spiritual wealth, imperturbability, all these different kinds of profound Buddha-like qualities. In their nature, our 5 senses are like that. In their nature, our 5 senses are the empty display of the pure, primordial, luminous nature. When we think of Guru Rinpoche, who attained the rainbow body, that is the gross and subtle purification of all of the senses, so that the senses become profound, deeper, with the recognition of wisdom. In a way, you could say that if our nature is this unborn and yet spontaneously complete luminosity, then our senses should be like the pure rainbow colors. The wisdom of the senses that is essentially contained in their nature, just as we have that Buddha seed in our nature. It's like the pure jewel tones of refracted light. Merely a display. Empty and gossamer thin, like the display of rainbow light on the wall through a crystal. That's the true nature of our senses. And yet our senses now are whores. They commit adultery every step of the way. They lie to us. They tell us that what is pure and wholesome is crummy and not worth having. And they tell us that what is disgusting and degenerate and unwholesome and skanky is delicious, scrumptious, and beautiful. They are like adulterous whores in the state that they are in now. That doesn't make you bad. Can you do that? Can you suspend judgment? Remember that we're talking about habitual tendency. That is natural to us because we have existed in samsara since time out of mind. And yet practitioners say to me, well, I'll do it when it feels good. You know, It just doesn't feel right to practice like that. Or, you're a wonderful teacher, but I don't feel like we really have a close connection. And these are the kinds of things that you hear a lot in this town. You know, if it does right, it feels right, do it. Kind of go with the emotion. But you're following whores. You're following adulterers. You're following thieves, liars. Because these five senses are trained to lie to you. They speak of separation. They speak of boundaries, concepts. They speak of a lack of recognition. And most of all, they speak of reaction. The reaction to the delusion that self-nature is inherently real. That's how they came to be, is to process that little lie. And yet we hear the story about Guru Rinpoche, who in Maratika cave attained this amazing blessing of the rainbow body. That the bliss of his nature arose in such a way as to be the very display of rainbow light. Those were no ordinary senses. That was no ordinary experience. That was no ordinary event or ordinary mind. That was the bliss of Guru Rinpoche as he attained the rainbow body in the same way that we all attain realization, through the purification of gross defilements and subtle, and through the purification of our five senses. In a lowly way, our five senses lie to us left and right. They seduce us. They're like whores. They dress up pretty. And they say, come on. You want to come over here, don't you? Come on over here and feel some of this. If you just jump in here, it's going to feel so good. That's what they say to you. Come here. Come on, honey, honey. Like prostitutes, like whores. They want to lead you down that alleyway into the darkness of confusion. In an intermediate way, we begin to understand that, like our thoughts, like our mind, our senses are like, and can be like, beasts of burden. In a sense, most of us let our senses take us anywhere they want. We're like poor beat-up old slobs that get yanked around by these whores. Come here, do this. This will make you happy, that'll make you happy, here's happiness. And so we get yanked around, but it is possible to command our five senses, to use them to practice Dharma. This is the intermediate way. Now I can read my practice. Now I can recite my mantra. And in so doing, of course, we purify the gross defilements of body, speech, and mind. We use our senses in such a way that they are working for us, not just dragging us down dark alleys, bringing us deeper and deeper into suffering. For some of us, that's much harder than for others. I haven't had this thought yet. We're afraid of our minds. We're afraid of our perception. We think if I perceive something scary, I'm just going to die. Or if I perceive something that changes me, I'm just going to flip out. We're just so afraid, and we don't understand that these senses, when used appropriately, are like vajras. For sure I can read that practice. For sure I can recite this mantra. They are vajra helpers. And then ultimately, in their most pristine display, they are the 5 primordial wisdom dakinis, each containing all the fully accomplished properties, qualities, and conditions of enlightenment. In the realization of emptiness and in the gathering of wisdom, the senses themselves become purified. And they no longer delude us. They no longer lie to us. They no longer abandon us to darkness. Here in the Buddha Dharma, we learn to treasure the 3 precious jewels. And it's because they do not arise from samsara, and they will not result in samsara. Here on the path, we also learn to recognize our nature. We learn to distinguish and recognize that pure, pristine nature, which somehow miraculously we haven't managed to ruin yet. We recognize that nature. We realize it cannot be torn down, it cannot be ruined, it cannot be done away with. And in the same way, through the accomplishment of Dharma, we learn to recognize and treasure that which does not arise from samsara. We also learn to recognize that we, in our nature, do not arise from samsara. The Buddha seed that is our only hope does not arise from samsara, cannot be destroyed in samsara. You can't drink it away, you can't smoke it away, you can't whore it away, you can't do anything. You can cover it over. And you can cover it over for a good long time. To a point where there's so much work to do and so much defilement and so much non-virtue has been created that it will take aeons to uncover, to reveal again. Aeons is a long time. I find that unacceptable. So sure, eventually, the meanest cockroach, the lowest worm, that too will realize and awaken to its nature. Wouldn't you like to beat him? I mean, we are talking about worms and cockroaches here. So while each of us has that nature, there is no sense hanging out in circus meditation or to wait for it to happen. Sometimes we think if we just live long enough, practice Dharma long enough, or wear the robes long enough, or just, I don't know, just hope for the best, that if we hang in here long enough, eventually it's all going to come together. But our goals are not defined because we don't really understand what all coming together means. And what we're talking about here, the goal of the Buddha Dharma is liberation, not just all coming together. And we don't realize that it is the depth of our practice that provides the way. You may have the best teacher in the world. You may have a teacher that is unequaled. You may have all that you need, the Dharma text, the Dharma supports, everything, stupas, everything that you need. But not Guru Rinpoche, not Lord Buddha himself, no Lama, no Buddha, no Bodhisattva, nobody can provide the way for you, can make the way happen. The way can be offered, but you must take the steps. Because the problem isn't with the Lama. The problem isn't with the three precious jewels. The problem is our own habitual tendency and karmic ripening that occurs because of habitual tendency. And so it is we who must open our eyes and recognize. We keep waiting for the Lama to recognize us. It's such a hoot. I mean, if I go to a store and I meet somebody who has come to teachings of mine, I don't wear my robes if I go to the store. But somebody recognized me, they go, "Oh, Jetsunma, it's you. I just can't tell you what it's meant for you." And I'm like, "Good. And I'm happy to see you, genuinely happy to see you, but I don't remember you because you only came to one of my teachings." You see? But that person, I know if I don't act so happy and so glad and so recognizing, that person becomes so disappointed because they go back to that self-loathing. They think, "Oh, it must mean she doesn't know me. It must mean I'm not knowable. It must mean I was the crud my mother said I was." I mean, really stupid things happen. And we have to come to the realization that the Lama is here for us and us alone. That the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas are here in this world for us and us alone. For our purposes, in order to benefit. And if we're in a position where we are not so close to our root teacher, or we don't have the occasion to be with our teacher very often, or we live in a different place, or we can't afford to go, or we can't, whatever the circumstances are, we should recognize them as obstacles, and it's up to us to practice, because when you practice, the flavor and condition of one's path changes. I remember when I first met His Holiness Pena Rinpoche, I once told him very frankly, "I can't tell if I'm pleasing you or not, because you're always so wrathful." And he said, "Well, okay, we can sit down and have tea and pretend you're a Jendok," which means an offerer, somebody that just gives money to the Dharma, doesn't really practice but gives money to the Dharma. "Then we can have tea, we can sit down and say sweet words." He said, "Or you can really be my student the way you are, and I'll guide you." And I thought, God, what? I mean, is the game here for him to show me how much I please him? How ridiculous. He doesn't need the training. I do. Same here. The Guru doesn't need the training. You do. Like the sun, not gone, the Guru is here. You have to train yourself how to stop hiding behind mountains, buildings, and under rugs, and wherever it is you hide. That keeps the shade on your head. And we would love to think that there's some magic formula. Like if you just say, "Hallelujah, amen, you are my only Guru, Savioress of all things," that magically it will all go away. Oh, don't I wish it were so. If it were only that easy. If it were only that easy that we could simply wait for some magic, some grace from somewhere else to come to us. And yet, if that were the case, then we would always be beggars. Always be slaves. Always be gathering those old crumbs underneath the table of the banquet. Because if salvation is somewhere else, then so is your Buddhahood. If salvation could be granted, then believe me, the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas would have done so. In any religion, in any faith, if it were possible, believe me, it would have been done. Lord Buddha himself would have emptied out samsara. But of course it isn't like that. Because the truth is, you are that. You have Buddha in the throne of your heart. All of the constituents are perfectly complete. The table is set. The invitations have been set out. It is time for the marriage. Because of the quality of your nature, because you are primordial wisdom, the sheer luminosity of the ground of being, because you are that in its display form, nothing from outside will make a difference. It'll only be more phenomena. But within you lies the gateway to everything. Within you is the nature that you wish to awaken to, the nature that ends suffering. And the work that has to be done isn't a magic potion. It isn't just a formula. It isn't anything kind of silly like that. It doesn't come from the sky or another planet or something. This is Sedona. But it is revealed as we awaken. As these whores of the five senses stop leading us astray. As we stop following them, as we understand their nature, as we learn to love and respect that nature to the degree that our love and respect for all sentient beings is without end and without condition. And it is the same as the love and respect and dignity that we have for ourselves as well. I find, oddly enough, that some of my best students are recovering from alcoholism or addictions. To the people that don't know us are looking around going, which ones? We won't tell. My best students are those who have come from some really hard places in life, some really tough ways to go. Because addiction and alcoholism are not that much different from the condition we find ourselves in with our five senses and ordinary view. We're drunk with samsara. We ride on the highs and are victimized by the lows. We're junkies for it. Give me some more. I want to travel. I want to go. I want to have fun. I want to have some more energy. Give me some more energy. I want all kinds of stuff. We're addicted in the same way, and it's like a narcotic drug. And like a narcotic drug, you wean yourself off. And you do the work that keeps you sober. So many of my best students are former alcoholics and former drug users. And why? Because they're not any different from us. Except we are addicted to stuff that you can't really see. We are all addicts. We are all drunks. And most of us are still practicing. And the beauty of having that blessing, and to me, to be a recovering alcoholic is a blessing. Hey, go figure. To me, to have come to that point in your life where you are so far down and your life is so out of control and you're laying there in a pool of your own vomit for day after day. You know, there's nothing like a situation like that to make you realize this ain't working. And so many alcoholics have come to that point in their life. They've hit bottom, and they don't want to go back there anymore. They're motivated. They've learned that their own mind is not to be trusted. Do you know what the mind of an alcoholic is like? The mind of an alcoholic is engineered to get the next drink. It'll do anything. It'll make you feel good. It'll make you feel bad. It'll make you feel ugly. It'll make you feel pretty. And it'll make you feel rich. It'll make you feel poor. It'll make you feel stuff you can't even imagine. It will make perfect sense out of perfect drivel as a reason to get another drink. That's the mind of an alcoholic. Every thought is contrived to get you a little closer to that drink. Guess what? Across the board, we are the same. The deeply samsaric mind is meant to get us off the pain and directly to the next pleasure. And I mean, we're all different. We're all different kinds of addicts, you know. Some of us are addicted to emotion. And so everything in our lives is to get us to that next emotion because we love it. Everything in our lives is to get us everything. You can even use the Dharma that way. If you're a hypomanic freak that has to be busy all the time and has a mind kind of like that, you could use Dharma to keep you that way. Sure. You can use anything to keep you that way. We all have that kind of mind. And so just as an alcoholic has to go through like the 12 steps of sobriety, not only has to just hang out with other alcoholics for a while, but then you got to work it. You got to see your life's out of control. I forget the other steps because I'm not really a practitioner of the 12 steps. But anyway, they're good. I can tell you, I forget the next ones. But each and every one of them is like something we do in Dharma. There are so many similarities. And even the part about self-honesty, what is it, fourth step, fifth step, fourth step, the part about self-honesty. Nobody likes to do that. What a pain in the tush. But at least we can practice knowing that our condition is the same. We are born drunk and we can die drunk. We can have gross defilements, create terrible karma and obstacles in our lives, or we can practice. We can live selfishly in a world full of insanity and neuroses, never reaching a plateau of happiness for any length of time, or we can give rise to the bodhicitta and practice. We love to remind ourselves here in America how free we are. Yes, we are free to choose, and we are free to drink, and we are free to suffer, and we are free to go through what we all see here in samsara. But we are free to practice. To achieve this precious human rebirth under these extraordinary conditions is no small feat. You must have worked endlessly for this. How can I thank you? What can I give you that tells you what that means to me? And in order to have met with your teacher and to practice in this way, you must have prayed so many times for this extraordinary result. This is what you do that pleases the Venerable Masters. Nothing else. How do we please them? We make all these prayers to please the Venerable Masters so that we can be as they are for the sake of sentient beings. This is how we please the Venerable Masters. And that leads me into my personal request of the day. Recently, when His Holiness came, this was the arrival to me of Guru Rinpoche. I had been praying for Guru Rinpoche to give me the blessing necessary so that once again I could stand up and teach my students and increase Dharma in the world. That's what I'm here for. I don't care about anything else. Nothing else except my dogs. Oh, and my children. In order to please the Venerable Spiritual Masters, we must practice. And when His Holiness came here, he said, some students came to him and said, why don't we see our teacher too much? She's sick a lot. She's gone through this really bad period of sickness, and we can't seem to, she's not well enough to come back to us. And His Holiness said, well, that's because your merit is waning. That's not waxing, that's waning. And when the merit to practice wanes, the auspicious connection and condition by which we see our teacher, meet with the path, practice with our teachers, receive instruction, have our minds matured through the blessing of our teachers, to connect with the three precious jewels, these are the auspicious things. And when our merit is waning, they do not happen. Obstacles arise. When they are building, then more and more blessing takes hold. More and more firm accomplishment of Dharma in the world takes hold. So His Holiness said, this is not my words, he said to the Sangha, your merit is waning. That frightens me, because I can't bear to lose you. Now for myself, if I were not here teaching, I would be somewhere else teaching. If there were no merit for me to teach anybody else, well, I would be someplace else doing something good in some way. I have no other reason or no other desire or no other aspiration of any kind. No matter what you see me do or think you know about me, that's it. So I'm asking you to join with me in this effort to not allow our merit to wane, ever. In all the monasteries around the world, traditionally, because they form as the male throne holder ascends to the throne, and then his student, the next one, ascends to the throne. It's all kind of laid out in a nice hierarchical system. And we have that system too in our tradition. We have His Holiness, and we have the other lamas of our lineage. But you're with me. You poor suckers. You have this karma that you are with me. And I have been recognized as Guru Rinpoche's consort and as a primordial wisdom Dakini. You have to accept that. We are not in a monastery in Bailakupe or in Bhutan or in Tibet or in any place in India where I have the good fortune of ascending a throne where there's hundreds of monks around to do excellent practice and keep the merit going. Our karma is different. Our mandala of activity is different. And why? Because this is the Western direction that Dharma was supposed to come to. The prediction was that Guru Rinpoche would bring his blessing to the West, and it's here. And it has to take the form of Western culture, with all the doodads and doohickeys that are associated with Western culture. Here in the West, we may never, most of us, become monks and nuns. It may always be a huge proportion of lay practitioners that carry a lot of weight. But from the traditional point of view, it is said that numbers of ordained people in robes, the saffron robes, the maroon and saffron, and secondarily the maroon and white, which is a different level of ordination, a layperson's level of ordination. It is said in traditional situations, these monks, these lamas, these students, whatever they are, they get together and they practice the bejesus out of every day. Oops, did I say bejesus? What'd I tell you? It's different in every culture. When the lama is sick, the other lamas and the monks and the students, they get together, they purify their conduct. They make offerings. They do protector prayers. They do pujas. They do drupchens. Great accomplishments. And they build up their merit, and boom, things proceed as normal. Now for us, since we don't have that in an institutional way, we must create it. And so I'm asking you, those of you that are wearing robes, first of all, particularly those of you that are wearing the yellow robes, have you come to the point in your life where you not only wish to listen to Dharma and to hang out around Dharma, but have you come to the point of your life where you are sick to death of samsara and you are ready to accomplish the Buddha Dharma? Because I need you to come forward now. I need daily practice, profound and deep, with honesty and devotion. I need us to practice the protectors and to make them our friends. I know Mahakali is my friend. He appeared to me throughout all my life. That's not the point. We need to make the Dharma protectors our friends. We need to come to know the Dakinis that visit us in our dreams, that comfort us in our practice. We need to come to be aware of the very presence of Guru Rinpoche, to develop the craving that we must practice because we cannot bear to be without him another day. Oh, there I go. We need to practice as though our lives depended on it, because they do. It's okay to hang out around Dharma. It's better than robbing a bank. It's okay to come listen to these teachings because you feel good when you come to listen to them. It's better than jumping out of a plane. But I'm asking you, the way it says in the 7-line prayer, the translation being, following you, I will practice. I'm asking you to practice deeply and sincerely and with devotion every day and accomplish Dharma. Renunciation is power because the addictions are gone. Because you are not seduced and slimed by bullshit stuff that doesn't matter anyway. Because you begin to purify the 5 senses. And in this way, in this view, you can hold the view and the 3 precious jewels are here. Because you are here. With that certainty, with that Vajra strength, this is how we pray to Guru Rinpoche and to our root gurus. Following you, I will practice. This is my heartfelt request from you. And I'm saying this in all seriousness because many of you here are my first waivers, I like to call you. That's just a misnomer. That's a crazy way of saying that some of you have the karma to create a sangha of strength that will provide the constant creation of merit by which we can continue. You must not let merit wane, ever. You must take every opportunity to increase the merit through practice. This is the way. Because a good friend of mine used a very apt explanation. Traveling the path of Dharma is like traveling in a bamboo shoot. You're either going up or down. If you stay the same, you're not practicing. And so this is the request that I make of you. If there was ever a time that you should become the practitioner that you are meant to be, now is the time. Emaho. Na, na.